Well, that was fun. Couldn't get Acti to go up to bat, but I at least got my Barry Bonds on. That was fun. Shout out to the Wild Americans bringing baseball everywhere. Baseball's a great game. Now into the museum. It's open till 7. Thank God. So this is the footage that I got from touring the National History Museum here in Tirana, Albania. You can find it in Skanderberg Square, which is the main square in the city. It's impossible to miss. It costs 500 lek per person to enter, at least for me as a tourist on this Sunday that I went. Now, when you walk into the museum, the first thing that you see is this big map of Albania, and it shows the ancient tribes that inhabited this land. And this will be a constant theme as you move through the museum. There's this map of Albania that you see constantly through the museum, and the tribes change, the names of the kingdoms change, and that sort of thing. I was also struck by how many ancient artifacts they found from prehistoric times. People have been inhabiting this land for hundreds of thousands of years, which is amazing. I was also very impressed to see these ancient busts from, the Hellenistic age. And growing up in the U.S., when we learn about Western civilization and history always, of course, starts in Greece because of white supremacy. But it was very interesting to see that they had these ancient vases and mosaics and busts that were literally, thousands of years old and hundreds of years old. And I'm always in awe whenever I'm in front of something that is so ancient and has stood the test of time. So that was great to see. And as we move forward, I learned a lot. And as I was reading the plaques on the wall, I learned about the ancient kings that inhabited this place and the ancient kingdoms. And I guess the most prominent kingdom that inhabited this land was the Illyrians. And the Illyrians were an ancient civilization that were contemporaries of ancient Rome, and they were a vassal state under ancient Rome and Greece and other empires back then. And the Illyrians made a name for themselves in history. And as you continue to walk through the museum, every floor starts to go through a different era. So as I said, the first one is the prehistoric age, then it goes into the Hellenistic, Roman periods, then it goes into like the Middle Ages and that sort of thing, and then it gets into the modern Albania and the development of the nation state. And one of their biggest heroes is a guy named Iskander the Great, which is where the name Skanderberg Square comes from. And he was basically the Albanian king that fought away the Ottoman Empire and helped the Albanians, get national identity. You also learn about the history of their language. The first written recording of their language was about 700 years ago, which is very interesting. And what I'm still missing from all the museums that I visited, Bunkart 1, Bunkart 2, and the National History Museum, I still am not getting an explanation on the Islamification of Albania, how Islam came here. Of course, it's obvious that it was introduced possibly by the Ottomans, but I would like to know how thoroughly it happened here in Albania and not other parts of the Balkans, and I am still missing that information. And I read every plaque on the wall, and I cannot find this out. Also, another thing that was not explained in this museum, as well as in the other ones I visited, was how the Muslims were treated here during the communist era here in Albania. I still don't know if there was open repression, if the adhan was still being made every day, if people could still pray in Jamaat and Salat. I'm still very confused about that. And also in this museum, another thing that kind of bugged me was that there were many parts of the exhibit that were just in Albanian. There were no English translations. And even some of the English translations were a bit confusing. And even when I read it, I wasn't really sure the information I was getting. But overall, I was very, very impressed with this museum. It's a very, very thorough display of their history and their national identity and pride. There are some parts that could be made more clear, but please remember that I did walk through this museum without a guide. I just read the plaques, observed the artwork, tried to absorb in as much culture and information as I could, and take from it what I could get. I was also very interested to see that there was an icon room And I remember when I was in Serbia and I went to the National History Museum there, they had this same sort of red room with icons on the wall, which in Eastern Orthodox Christianity, these paintings are somewhat, the style that they use, and some people even consider them holy, and these relics have some power, some holy power as well. And I'm very surprised to see that here in Albania, even though I know that there are many Christian Albanians and also Orthodox Albanians possibly as well. But also when you leave the museum, the last part of it is mostly an exhibit towards their struggle for independence and their military. They have some old guns that they have there, plaques for soldiers who fought and died for their war of liberation. And it's very inspiring to see that as well. It was very cool. And I will have to say Albania does a good job at museums. Just left the National Museum. That was a very good experience. Very informative, very educational. Now we're on our way to some bazaar, and Acti is sitting in the big plastic chairs. I'm gonna join them. Woo. These things are very comfortable. These little plastic things. We're not the only people hanging out, lounging, but they're very relaxing, very ergonomic. Turkish music time, hey. Holla time, hey, hey.
If I looked at you and said, African music time in Kenya, how would you feel? Yeah, I said it.
Free charging stations and Wi-Fi here in Tirana. Yes, Lord.
Do we have an ashtray?
Here at ODA restaurant. Tell us about ODA. What did you find out about ODA?
I actually saw this place online before because it's kind of popular and it's like recommended by every website in Tirana, but this is like a traditional place where you can get some traditional food, some Ferges. Here are some traditional meals with
Pause the menu if you need to see.
a lot of organs, some meats here, and these are like the vegetarian kind of meze-ish cold side dishes, I'm assuming. And yeah, we're gonna try Ferges.
All right, so we're here at ODA, and this is our great waitress named Eni.
She's the funniest.
She's funny, she's smart, her English is great. Good, looks good. Big old spoon. Just got through eating some Ferges at ODA. Phone didn't have any data for me to record any video, so I couldn't record it. But it was very delicious. Now I'm walking around here in this bazaar. I think it's kind of closed now. Just a nice little area. Red bricks. It's cool. It's been a very interesting day going to the museums here in Tirana and looking forward to doing more in this beautiful country. Peace.